Welcome back to another episode of Have Game Will Travel. I am your host, Bennett Newsome. I'm the Director of Esports Growth and Development at Full Sail University, but most of you probably know me as Dammit Bennett out there on the internet. But if it's your first time joining us here, welcome. Super happy to have you watching the show. If Have Game Will Travel is a brand new show for you, essentially what we're doing here is just really kind of going down the journey into the world of gaming and esports, and kind of talking about how there's so much more to that than just being good at the game. So if you have questions for our guest, you'll be able to just type them into the Twitch chat, and we'll get them answered for you. But first, let's kick things off. We've got Dustin here, so let's jump on in. And Dustin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell the people about yourself.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? As you obviously now know, my name is Dustin. I go by Vibronium on all the social platforms, gaming platforms, whatever it is out there. Been in this space for a while now. I think Ben, we probably met what 5-6 years ago. I guess, or D1.
Yeah, it was definitely
maybe
D1 for sure.
Yeah, I think I've got a few more gray hairs since when we first met up. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But we're going for the salt and pepper George Clooney look.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
we're aging well. Yeah. But I've been working at Discord for a little over 3 years now. Started back in March of 2019, so pre-pandemic. Company was a lot smaller, obviously, and then things have gone pretty wild overall. And now I'm one of the managers on our customer experience or customer service team, and loving it.
Awesome. Well, let's start with your name, Vibronium. Where does it come from? What does it mean? I always love finding out more about people's gamer tags.
Yeah. So a little embarrassing. So when I was originally on Twitch, I went by Murderface50. If you're familiar,
name, obviously.
Yeah, it's a great gamer name, right? Yeah, no, it was. If you ever are familiar with the show Metalocalypse,
Yeah.
by chance,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the bassist was William J. Murderface. I thought he was super funny, whatever. So I went by that name. But then, when I wanted to get a little bit more like serious and involved in Twitch,
Yeah.
I had this weird idea that like numbers weren't okay in your name,
Right?
Like
okay.
It was just like, oh, if you have numbers, like you're not going to be like legit. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was just, I guess it's like old school approach to it. But so I wanted to have a new name. I wanted to have a whole new like brand and everything. Murderface is like taken on all the platforms. So I wanted something that was like really unique. And you can't quite see it because I think it's cut off a little bit. But I'm a huge Captain America fan.
Okay.
I've got poster. Actually, you can kind of see it a little bit in the corner there.
Yeah.
Huge Captain America fan, and as we all know, there's a common metal in the Marvel universe that's called Vibronium, and you'll actually appreciate this, Bennett. I think the reason why I went with Vibronium is because I watched a lot of Professor Broman.
Yep.
And so I was like, oh, like the broy, like it's like I guess like kind of like a fun twist on something that I'm into. So went with Vibronium. I found out that it wasn't taken on, literally any platform.
Yeah.
And so I think there was like someone on Facebook that had it, but it was like an inactive channel or whatever. But otherwise, it was free. So I said, screw it, let's just send it.
I like it. Yeah, and I think it's always funny when you talk about putting numbers in, like from a branding perspective. That's like such a mindset, like, oh, it's got to be clean and unique, blah blah blah. But I think nowadays, having numbers be letters is just more of a commonplace in the space, probably because all of the good names have been taken, right? It was a challenge to find them back then, but also it's even more so now. But here
it's like movies, right? It's like movies, and they're just redoing all the old movies now. So now everyone's redoing all the old names with numbers instead. So I think they're making it work. Yeah.
So have you always been involved in gaming, or when did you get started?
Oh yeah, as a kid, pretty much. I was. It's funny because I talk to a lot of parents, and I'm like, you don't understand how lucky your kids are, because being a nerd and gaming is cool now, versus when you and I were kids, it was like, no, you're a nerd, I'm gonna give you a wedgie, and the whole spiel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I grew up with like the N64. I was like really into. I have two older brothers.
Okay.
And so the reason why gaming has always been really important to me is because being the youngest of three brothers, we didn't really get along very well as kids. And so I was kind of that classic annoying younger brother that made their lives a living, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but a living hell.
Right.
But gaming was like the one thing that we could like actually sit down and tolerate each other with, right? And so I have like really vivid memories back in like, I think it was like 96, 97 when Final Fantasy 7 first came out.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like 6 or 7 years old at that point, and my oldest brother to PlayStation. The three of us are sitting on the couch just watching my brother play this game, staying up like all night, drinking like Diet Cokes and eating chips and like we weren't even playing. We were just watching him play. But it was just such a cool experience. It was like really the first time where I was like, wow, like my brothers and I can like actually like enjoy each other and have fun. And so that really sort of kicked off my love for gaming, just like the fact that I was able to really bond with my brothers, and see like whole new worlds and being nerdy, obviously it's like being able to like explore different worlds and see sort of like how I could fit into that, I guess, so to speak. I guess hopefully that answers your question, but kind of sure. the basis of my gaming passion.
I feel like we all start kind of in that similar nature, but I think it's also gives into the idea of like when we talk about Twitch, people are like, you watch other people play video games, but this is something that we've been doing for a long time. On the old NES days, you would pass the controller and then you'd sit and wait your turn. You'd watch your friends play, your brothers play, whatever it was. It was pretty common, occurrence to just kind of spectate somebody else's, gameplay, which is always, a criticism, I think, maybe of some people in Twitch. Like, why would you bother watching other people play? Something we've done all along.
I was guilty of being one of those people, honestly. Like seriously, I didn't even realize it. I remember back when it was Justin TV, a buddy of mine was super into it and was like really into League of Legends. And he's like, "Oh, dude, you got to watch this." And I was like, why would I even bother?
Yeah.
But it's funny because I know you're into sports too, right? Yeah. So it's like, we're doing that with sports.
Absolutely.
So like, why can't we do that with gaming? So
put on my Tampa Bay Lightning jersey, go to the game, and it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
why don't you just play?
Yeah, you should play this sport.
Be a professional, easy. Yeah.
So we ask a question on the show, not necessarily what is your favorite game, but what was like the very first game that you ever like truly loved? For me, it was Doom on Sega 32X. And I think I played that till the game just didn't, work anymore. Right. Do you have a game that was like kind of your first love that really, opened your eyes to the world of gaming?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's so interesting because it's kind of like a multi-answer thing for me, right? Because I think, I talked about before, my brothers playing Final Fantasy 7 together, like that really opened my eyes to it and let me get a really deep appreciation for what gaming can be and what it's about and all that. But I think, I didn't even really play it because like he, being the oldest brother, he's just like, I'm just going to play and you're going to watch.
You watch this.
Yeah. Same thing happened with Pokemon Red. Like I remember we had a Game Boy. My mom bought us a Game Boy for us to use together. And we got a Pokemon Red and my older brother was like, it's my game, you're just gonna watch. Right. So, but the first game that like I personally really got to dive into that I think like opened my eyes to like just how amazing it all was Ocarina of Time. Zelda Ocarina of Time, which I think is kind of an easy answer, right? I mean, I feel like most people, at least maybe in our age bracket, are like, Ocarina of Time, easy. That's like, of course, a classic. But I mean, I've got like a Zelda tattoo on my back. I've got, I've got like the Hylian crest and everything. Like I'm really, really into it, and so just like seeing like the fantasy world and a character who like never even speaks, but is like you can like see his journey even though he never says a word, right? And so I just thought that was so interesting.
The games had such an impact on the community and the culture even of gaming, that it is so huge. I think that really fits the criteria. I don't think it's an easy answer because there's plenty of people I think that never either played the game or really got that into it. When we talk about Zelda and look at what it's turned into, now and how it's still, continuing to grow is a huge deal, I think, for that, not only the title, but the space, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can see the influences throughout, the next 20, 30 years or whatever it's been, right? So it's kind of wild to think about. But I also think like that question can almost be answered within like genres, right? Because like there's the single player experiences which are so unique, and there's some people who are into that and there's some people who aren't, but there's also like the competitive
Yeah.
experiences. Like, there's like, I remember being really into like GoldenEye,
Oh yeah.
and getting the local, I remember the AKs looking like little pencils, and like
Hmm.
one to trying to take on your buddies who were like Odd Job and all the other characters in that game. But there was also, I was really into like Day of Defeat, if you remember that
Okay.
game.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the same time that Counter-Strike came out.
Hmm.
That was like the first like PC game that I like really tried to
Yeah.
be like, I want to be good at this game. And so, there's like multiplayer experiences, like competitive experiences, and single player experiences. I think they're like all kind of unique to me when it
Yeah.
comes to like figuring out what really sort of motivated me to get further into gaming and all that.
For sure, and I think it probably helped, like you said, define the genre that you would then later go and be super passionate about, which is always good.
Mhm. Yeah.
So speaking of passion, was gaming always your passion? For myself, I had this like struggle between gaming and music. It was always a back and forth between the two. Well, for yourself, did you have something else that was going on in your life, or was gaming just this thing that you did with your brothers and friends?
Yeah, it was definitely sports.
Okay.
I was really into sports growing up: basketball, football, baseball, even dabbled in lacrosse a little bit.
Okay.
Basketball is like my main thing, though. I'm like obsessed to this day. I'm obsessed with basketball. I'm very fortunate these days to be a Warriors fan. So
Okay.
growing up in the Bay Area, right, we were we had season tickets for like a long time, and the Warriors were really bad for a majority of my life. So we'd be going to games for $20 or whatever to
Yep.
watch a team just be terrible, but it was still fun.
It was an experience,
Uh,
right?
yeah, oh yeah, I get to go like with my uncle and my brothers and things like that. It was a great time, but I think I really gravitated towards sports because it was something that my parents really let me sort of dive all into. Because gaming, maybe things are changing now. Maybe there's parents out there who could maybe speak on this a little bit better than I could, but
Mhm.
especially back when I was younger, it was like if I couldn't just sit there and play games all night, my mom wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like, no, like you're
Go
rotting
outside.
behind a TV.
Yeah.
It's yeah, go do your homework, go run around or do something, get out of the house. So I would only really be able to play for like maybe an hour a night, maybe on like a good day.
Right.
But I could go out and shoot hoops for hours on end. And so like I really got into sports growing up a lot. And basketball in particular was like by far my favorite sport that really, again, to this day, I mean,
Right.
it's just a huge passion of mine. So
Was there a crossover from playing sports like in person to then also playing the sports games that were coming out at the time?
yeah, a little bit. Oddly enough, I'm actually not really into the sports games very much. I Yeah, I never really. Like, maybe this is a hot take, but I never really felt it was very like innovative. Like I feel like every year it's kind of the same thing.
Yes.
It feels like the same thing at least. Just with like maybe like, oh, you can like now see their sweat. It's just like
Yeah.
okay, but
Yep.
I never really was into sports games. I think I actually kind of liked keeping those worlds separate, where it's like I play basketball, like, but my gaming is like the more like high fantasy stuff
Yeah.
or like the
Okay.
competitive stuff, right?
Awesome. So moving into like your college years, you went to, was it Hofstra University?
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
what did you study there?
So I was doing a mixture of criminology and sociology.
Okay, cool. Do you find that like that has tied into the world of gaming and streaming for you, or was that just a completely different direction?
Yeah, not really at all.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. So I guess a little backstory. I was going into law enforcement.
Okay.
I was enrolled, or obviously not at the time I was in college, but my whole life I was like, I want to be a police officer. I want to be a detective, possibly even like a government agency. Um, I pretty much knew very early on in my life that that's something I wanted to be involved in. And so I worked a lot of jobs that helped me with that. I did like security jobs and
Right.
and other things like that. I studied classes, again for criminology and sociology seemed like a pretty good complement to that as well, right? Excuse me. But eventually I got hurt. And so I was actually enrolled in the Oakland Police Academy, if you're familiar with Oakland in California.
Yeah.
And a few months before my class was going to start to be a cadet, I blew my knee out entirely.
Oh wow.
Had like 4 knee surgeries. No, it was a whole thing. I could go on and on about it, but it was a whole thing. So essentially, I was medically disqualified from going into law enforcement. And so I kind of had to like really pivot my life,
Yeah, for
right? So like
sure.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. But gaming was always sort of like a core of everything, right?
Yeah.
Like even though I was preparing for all that, I was like still playing games on the side. But like my work in college and my school work for like criminology and sociology, I never really intended for any of it to really apply to my gaming life or
Hmm.
now what I'm doing now. But it was good experiences. I
Yeah.
think it opened me up to understanding the world a little bit better, right? And I think now being a manager, like I'm a hiring manager in my company, right? So I get to look at applications. It's nice being able to have a like more of like a worldview and like understanding like different people's backgrounds, right? And where they're from and how that can impact who they are. And I think
Hmm.
sociology played a really big part in that, right? Just understanding like the impact that your
Yeah.
environment can have upon you. So I think it sort of it worked out. It wasn't my intention,
Right.
but it worked out that way in a little bit, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Life had other plans, but it's always cool to see how it kind of starts to trickle in. Like the things that you study, the things that you learn, even in the the streaming space. You're kind of always like almost like a sponge, like getting more information. You're finding this new way to do this thing in OBS or something. You start to gather all those experiences and all that knowledge together, and all of a sudden, like starts to bleed out into other areas, which is always really cool. Speaking of Twitch, you started creating content. I think 2016, does that seem about right? Maybe.
Yeah, man, I feel like I have to like think back on it. Yeah, it's like kind of a trip. Yeah, I used to care a lot more about this, but I think as I've gotten older, I cared less and less about like
Yeah.
start
I've
dates and
been
all
here for
that.
this long. No, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was probably like 2015, 2016. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about how you found the platform. I always find that interesting, and what made you kind of want to become a streamer.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mentioned before how I was like not at all into the idea of like being on at the time Justin TV
Right.
or now Twitch TV. I thought it was really bizarre. But when I was probably back in 2015, 16, I was really into Smite, if you're familiar
Oh
with that
yeah,
game.
yeah. We have a Smite team here at Full Sail, and they just took second place in this past
Ooh,
season,
hell
which is pretty
yeah.
awesome. So we're really excited about that. But very familiar with Smite.
Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, so I was really into Smite and I never wanted to be like, competitive. I didn't want to like take it anywhere, but I was like, I mean, I feel like even if we're not trying to be professional, we still want to be competitive in certain
Yeah.
aspects, right? It's like, oh, I want to climb up the ranks or whatever it is. And so my buddy that I was playing with a lot, he was like, oh, you should check out some Twitch streams to see if there's like anything you can learn from some of like the top players or whatever. So I'll never forget. I always went to the stream. His name was DM Brandon.
Okay.
I have no idea what he's doing now. I haven't checked out Smite in a very long time, but I like watched his streams like religiously. He was like I think he was an announcer for a lot of their
Hmm.
tournaments. He was also just like super competitive in the game and knew a lot about it. So I was just like obsessed with watching him and like learning more. And funny story, actually, I think like 3 or 4 years later, I got invited to do a charity event at TwitchCon where I got to like go on stage and like play
Yeah.
like a game. And one of the I guess, guests or whatever was him, DM Brandon.
That's awesome.
And so I remember I was like backstage and I was like, oh snap, like like
Yeah.
dude, like you like got me on Twitch,
Yeah.
like you're like the reason why I'm on here. And so of course he was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And they
No
kind
big
of
deal.
just kept on his business or whatever. It was kind of like my like weird little geek out celebrity moment, if you want to call it that. But yeah, no, Smite just like really got me into it. And then I eventually got into Destiny, which I mean,
Yep.
you obviously know the rabbit hole that can
Oh
have
yeah.
people go down. So I just full sent Destiny, and got into Professor Broman. I think I was watching a lot of Gathalion at the
Yep.
time. My buddy Kratos, he was
Oh
like
yeah.
one of the better like trials
Yep.
streamers, right? So I watched him a ton. And just got obsessed with like the community was so tight knit and friendly and positive and charitable and all those cool things. So I'm sure I know you've had like Mike and K
Y-
Magic, so I'm sure
Yep.
your
Yep.
audience has probably heard all about Destiny and everything at this point. But
It's a common
uh
thread, though. I think, and that's kind of a cool thing, is that how many people are really connected, not only through like the game, but like you said, the charitable efforts, just the community as a whole. And I think that's such a really cool and unique thing about Twitch, is that there's just all these different communities, and especially in the world of gaming, I think a lot of people just want to belong,
Yeah.
and this is a great way to find the community that makes sense to you. Like, well, the first channel that you started watching, that like, you got enthralled in that community, and that goes a really long way. That eventually you decided, hey, I'm gonna try this streaming thing out too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember I was my buddy actually at the time, the one who actually I got into Smite with, I grew up with him. He's a really good friend of mine. Shout out to Shingy if you're in the chat or wherever. But he was basically just like, why don't you try streaming? Like you seem to be like charismatic to a certain degree or whatever. And I was like, like no one's gonna freaking care. Like, why would I even bother?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, just like do it. Why not? And so eventually I was like, you know what? Fine. So I was playing. I think I initially started streaming Division 1.
Oh yeah.
And I was streaming directly from my PlayStation. I had just like my PlayStation headset, my little $10-$20 deal or whatever.
Yeah.
And some like really old crappy camera. And I'll never forget, I'm like sitting in like my recliner, just like the worst quality. I'm just like leaning back, just like, hey guys, what's up? Like just like
welcome chat.
Not at all professional or whatever. It was kind of a janky setup, but it was, of course, just streaming to nobody for what seemed like forever. But I remember finding that my first viewer, Long, who actually became like a community member for a while. And I'll never forget this because he was the first person to ever speak in my chat. And if you remember like streaming from the consoles, you could like see the chat on the side, right? And I remember I like light up and I'm like, oh, like, hey dude, like what's up, man? Like what's going on? And he was so mean to me. He was just like calling me out. He was like, you suck at this game. Like you're like, and I'm just like, oh haha, like yeah, dude, like whatever. I was just like so happy that someone was there that I just like took this punishment. And eventually I kind of broke. I was like, all right, man, like you gotta relax. Like, you quit giving us such a hard time. And it like flipped a switch where he was just super cool. It became like a mod of mine for a really long time.
That's funny.
But yeah, it all started with streaming Division 1. And then I'll never forget talking to Kratos, who I mentioned before. We found each other. This is how long ago this was, man. We found each other by self-promoting each other's streams because we saw each other in Professor Broman's channel.
Yep.
And like I clicked on his name and whispered him on Twitch and was just like, hey dude, I saw you're in a stream, and like I stream now too. Here's my link. Like not knowing the etiquette or anything at all, right? Just a little noob on Twitch or whatever. And I remember he sat me down. I was like, dude, like you seem to be really into this, but I'm telling you, Division's not going to be the game for you.
It's not where it's at.
Yeah, like it's not working on. It was pretty low on Twitch at that point, and no one was really watching it or whatever. And so, I was going to play Destiny anyways. I was really into it anyways. So I just said, screw it, why not? Let's just full send Destiny, and kind of honestly catapulted from there. Thanks to the fact that the community was so close knit, we all got to know each other, and word gets around in that community. And there's people like Broman and all of them were so generous back. They still are, but like hosting a lot of the smaller creators in the community that were more more consistent community members or whatever. So, all of a sudden you're streaming to 5 people, then get 4,000 people, and you're like, wow, okay, this is an arena of people I now need to talk to. Like I'm stumbling over my words and I'm nervous and sweating and all this craziness. But
this is anxiety.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was like, you think how you're going to handle a situation like that, right? You're like, oh yeah, like I'll just be myself. I'll just be like totally chill. And then like, you just like feel this like tightness in your chest almost like in the beginning. You're just like, oh my God, there's so many people here. I need to like impress them and be funny and like do all this stuff. It's definitely not a great feeling, but it can be pretty exciting too. Though.
It is. It's a both. It's a whirlwind of emotion for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think that's funny because of kind of the parallels with a lot of the conversations that we had, especially when it comes to finding the game that helps you build that community. And I'm in the same kind of spot as you. Is like those guys, Broman and Gathalion and that whole kind of squad, they helped give me a platform when I was first starting out too, and so that was huge. I mean, it was very different time back then on Twitch, but Obviously, as that's growing, it's really kind of developed even fuller. So for a long time, you were, like a full-time streamer. Your bio says partnered former full-time broadcaster, now working at Discord. Talk to us a little bit about what it was like to be a full-time streamer.
Stressful. If I'm just gonna be real with you.
Yes, please.
It was a ton of fun. I was very fortunate because at the time I was living at home.
Yep.
I at that point, I've been streaming for a while, and I was starting to get a pretty decent audience. I think I was like averaging, like, at the time, it was like, 60, 70, 80 people, which I feel like is a ton back then.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much. I mean, I guess it's perspective, of course, right? But and I was like, man, like I'm starting to make some like decent revenue just like on the side, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm just streaming at nights for like a couple of hours after work, and just like a ton on the weekends and stuff. And I was like, I don't like my job very much. It was like I was very fortunate to have the job. It was one of the jobs that I picked up like after my injury, and so I was like, man, I'm just grateful to like have a paycheck and benefits. You know what I mean? Yeah. Such because I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I never like loved it. I knew it wasn't going to be something I was going to settle into. And I think I kind of had the pipe dream of like, what if I can, like, I think at some point, probably everybody who's a streamer has this idea of like, what if I just try and make it work? You know what I mean? And I'll never forget, I know you had him earlier on your show. I think a few minutes back, K Magic 101, Kevin. I was pretty good friends with him at the time. And I mean, I still am. I just, I was, we were both streaming all that jazz.
Right.
Back then.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, man, like, what if I just do it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what if I just go for it? And he was definitely being, I guess, tactical about it. Like, hey, like, chances are it won't work out. Like, let's be real. It's definitely not for everybody. Not everyone can do it. There's a lot of luck involved and all that kind of jazz. But I actually went into full-time stream. So I think my perspective is a little bit different than maybe a lot of other people's, because I went into it not to become this like huge streamer on the platform, but to get into the industry. That was my goal from the get-go. I knew I wasn't like, I didn't want to like stream full time for like the rest of my career or whatever. I was like, I just want to get in here, obviously have some fun, build some connections, kind of explore the space a little bit further and see how I can ingrain myself to where I can potentially get a career within this space. So I was able to make it work for about 2 years where I was streaming full time. And I could have gone longer, but I'm not like saving a bunch of money. I was able to pay my bills and my rent and all that, right? I was able to like have a life, but I wasn't like raking in thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars a month or whatever. Plus, you find out real quick how taxes work.
Yes,
as a streamer.
Oh, taxes.
You're like, oh, I'm making like $4,000 a month on this. And it's like, no, you're actually really making like 2,500 maybe once the taxes all happen. So, it was definitely a reality call, but a reality check rather. But I was able to make it work for a while. I also got lucky because when I was streaming full time, Fortnite came out. And so, Fortnite season 1, I was doing pretty well for myself. That's when I got partnered, was streaming Fortnite, and which is funny because I probably would never touch the game again. But season 1 Fortnite was where it was at, man. It was a ton of fun, back when no one knew how to play.
Yes.
You just build your little 1 ramp, 2 walls, and you're like, all right, this is all I got.
Man.
Now it's like everyone builds the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. I like the no build mode because I feel like I can hang in that one, like if we're just shooting each other, we're good. But if you start building crazy I'm probably out.
Yeah, I think our age maybe is showing a lot 100%. Right now. We can't hang with the youths, man. They got us beat for sure there. No, the no build mode was pretty cool for sure. I saw that they put in all like the new Dragon Ball stuff, and I'm like, oh, am I really about to like download this and buy a Goku skin just to have it? You know what I mean? Like, am I really about to do that? Yeah. But no, it was a fun time though. So I got really invested into the community was growing a ton, and so I was able to really use Fortnite. I mean, not anywhere near the status of Ninja or whatever, but it definitely helped me grow the community a lot more, and was able to eventually kind of spread out to more like single player. I did a lot of like single player games as well. But I think the thing that really I found like my home in for a long time was Rainbow Six Siege. That was like my jam for a
Okay.
long time,
Yeah.
especially when I was streaming full time. Was end up getting like the meme in my community is like whenever I play like a new game, like a new competitive game, and I like do some crazy cool play, and I'm like, what do you expect? Like I'm a platinum ranked Rainbow Six Siege player, I'm just like, which is like not even like the highest rank, but it was
Right.
just like my bragging moment, you know what I mean, in that game. But yeah, R6 Siege has a special place in my heart from my full time days for sure.
Yeah, I have a lot of, or I hear from a lot of streamers that they want to go full time, and I always try to give them some, good advice, about, hey, you want to try to do this. What sort of advice would you offer them so that they could try to be successful in that space as a full time, content creator?
Yeah, no, it's funny enough, when I was streaming full time, I got tons of people asking me this question. And it's difficult because it kind of reminds me of the question that you get in chat where it's like, is this game for me? Like,
Yeah,
should I buy this game? And I'm like, "Oh, you're opening up a whole can of worms here. I don't know what
yeah,
you're into. I don't know what your financial status. I don't know
right,
what console. Like, I don't. There's so much that goes into it. You know what I mean? And so, I think for somebody who wants to become like a full time content creator, there's a lot of questions they need to ask themselves. Like, why are they doing it?
right,
Right? Like, what's your end game? Right? Because I think, especially when you're younger, I know I was this way. It was really hard for me to see the big picture, see like further ahead. I was just like, well, I just want to do this because it'd be really fun. And it's like, okay, but as you get older, there's a lot of real life things that come
yeah,
at your way. You know what I
hmm,
mean? And so, are you financially prepared for this? Do you have a safety net? That's probably the biggest thing that I would tell somebody is, do you have a safety net? If you were to pursue this and it doesn't work out, are you going to be on the street? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because some people, they don't really prepare themselves
yeah,
financially for this.
absolutely,
And it's a strong reality, especially where you're living. I live in the Bay Area, California. I don't know, I probably don't need to tell you how expensive it is to live here. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And so if you're living in the middle of nowhere and it's like, $400 to get a place to rent or whatever, then yeah, maybe it's a little bit more feasible. But like, here it's like 400
yeah.
bucks will give you a shoebox to live in, maybe. So I think the financial aspects is a really big part of it. And to strategize too. It's not just like turning on the camera and just being like, all right, I'm playing games now. Everyone's just gonna
Yeah.
watch. It's not a if you build it, they will come scenario. I don't like to think of it that way because there's a lot of work that goes into it after the fact.
Yep.
I remember I was in a relationship at the time, and I remember she used to always tell me like, you're streaming, 8-10 hours a day, and then afterwards it's like, all right, now you're going on the socials, you're editing videos, you're trying to network and
Hmm.
do that whole thing, and it's like it's kind of a nonstop deal.
Yeah.
If you're like really serious about it and you really want to pursue it, so I think there's a lot of elements to streaming full time that probably aren't visible
Yep.
from like the viewer perspective, but that once you actually try to pursue it, you realize real quickly, like, oh, I need to get my finances in order. I need to get my priorities in order. There's a lot of sacrifices you might need to make as well. I mean, I'll just be real. Like, I didn't really hang out with my friends very much.
Yep.
I was
Absolutely.
I was pretty much a hermit, just sitting inside streaming all day and working on stream related stuff at night,
Yep.
and then rinse and repeat. So there could potentially be a lot of sacrifices, but ultimately your life is your life. And
Yeah.
so if it's something you truly, truly want to pursue, then just make sure that you've got the money side figured out and
Yep.
that you have your safety net in place.
Yeah. Great advice. I think that's such an important key to that puzzle, right? Is figuring those things out, because the streaming world is up one day and down the next, and it's hard to forecast that sometimes. And to your point about like putting in 8 hours a day streaming, but then also going to do the work, the majority of work that you do as a full-time streamer happens off stream,
Yeah.
and the fun part is playing the game and being, on camera and doing that. But that's just such a small piece of that overall puzzle that I think a lot of people just aren't, aware of, when they're really thinking about that decision. So,
Mhm.
obviously you're still streaming today. You play like a lot of Valorant. I see. Is that kind of the new focus of the channel, or just as of late?
Yeah, so I definitely don't stream very much anymore. I sometimes, it's funny because I I mean, the idea of streaming is really fun and I love it, but I'm working behind my computer all day, and
Yep.
so there's times when I get off work, I'm like, I don't want to be on my computer anymore.
Right.
I would like to be somewhere else. You could probably see behind me my bed, so this is like my office and bedroom. So it's like maybe I want to leave this room for once.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but no, when I do stream, I sort of recently actually got into Valorant. And the reason, and I tweeted about it and I put it in my stream and all that kind of stuff too, is I really miss being competitive.
Yeah.
I was talking about before how I was super into Rainbow Six Siege, and I loved that game because I was competitive at it. I was pretty good at it from what I would consider not a professional, but I could definitely do some pretty cool stuff in that game. And so I wanted to find something to kind of scratch that itch again. And unfortunately, from what I've seen and from what I've read, the Rainbow Six community is the game's in a rough state right now, at least for my liking. A lot of cheaters and things like that, right? So I wanted to try and take on a new challenge, though. It's like I feel like it'd be easy to go back to a game that I was already competitive at, right? It'd almost be like a cop out.
Yeah.
But I never played Counter-Strike really growing up. And I like played like a little bit of Valorant when it first came out, but I quit so fast because I was so bad at it. I'm so used to running and gunning, you know what I mean? And so that game, it's like you need to like strafe tap, and like there's just like all this new tech that I'm not at all familiar with. And it's obviously a thriving game. They've got a really good grasp on like the cheating in that game as well. It seems to have a lot of staying power.
Yeah.
The only problem is that the skins are absurdly expensive, and
Very expensive.
My foolish self is like, oh, a $50 knife skin? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
It's like
a good month this
full game.
week.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Right? If you, for whatever reason, see this, come on, adjust the prices a little bit. They're obscene. But no, I mean, it seemed like a really fun challenge. And so I've got a couple of coworkers who I play with. That's a ton of fun. I got some friends from back in the streaming days who play in every now and then. It just seemed like a really fun challenge to take on because it's such a new experience to me.
Yeah.
So I've kind of challenged myself to hit platinum rank in that game. That's sort of like my personal goal. I'm silver 3 right now.
Okay. All right. We're getting there. We're climbing the mountain,
Yeah. It was tough because I was actually getting in a really good groove, and then I caught COVID. And I was sick for like a while, like 2 or 3 weeks, and I didn't want to play. And so like I started playing again recently and was so bad again that I was just like, oh, I feel like I gotta like restart here a little bit. But yeah, Valorant's been a fun game, man. It's fun learning new things, learning the new tech and the strategies, and really kind of getting back into that competitive mindset that I really missed. Growing up playing sports, I was super into it, and then a little bit later in my life, being a little bit more competitive in gaming. Now I'm able to sort of tap back into that again, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and for me, like, it's I've always been like a huge Call of Duty competitive fan, watching that and just always being in awe of how good some of these players are. But I feel like Valorant is my new favorite esport to watch, just because of how intense it is and some of the skills that you just see on display. It's incredible. So it's a great game. I also am very terrible at it. Started playing in the beginning and was like, okay, maybe not for me. I was doing more spectating than playing the game.
Right. You can do like the Tin the Tap Man spectating videos or whatever, if you're familiar with that at all. Yeah, no, I mean, to your point about the competitive scene, though, it's like because they just had like the what was it, the LCQ, I think it was called, the whole tournament that for people to qualify to go to Istanbul, I think it is. Me and my coworkers, we have like a group DM. We call it the Val Pals. And
I like it.
Like during work, you got like the games going to the side monitor, and it's like you start seeing the announcers go crazy, look over, and it's like 1v4s and like super clutch potential, and everyone in the group DM's freaking out, like, oh, did you see Shroud just popped off or whatever. So it's also for someone who's like trying to get more competitive about it as well. I'm able to like, sometimes I see a thing happen in the game, in the tournament, I'm like, I'm gonna try that next time, right? I see like, oh, they did some like crazy angle on that fade eyeball mechanic or whatever it is. Like, I want to try that next time, so it's cool to sort of be a student
Oh,
again,
yeah.
I guess, in that sense. And watching the pros, and man, yeah, to your point, they're just unreal.
It's not even the
what they
pro.
can do.
Yeah, it's not even the pros. We just back in June we hosted the XP League, which is a youth esports organization across the country, and they had their North American finals here on our campus, and it was in both of our venues. 4 different titles, but obviously one of them was Valorant, and this is like anywhere from like 8 to 14 or 15-year-olds, and
Wow.
so about 300 of those kids came down with their families for the weekend to participate in the finals. And just like watching some of these kids play this game, my mind was like blown. I was just like, these are young kids, and they are insane. Like I was just like so taken back at just the talent that is really coming up, which is really exciting for the future of competitive gaming. Is that you've got all these kids that are just, it's like second nature to them. So it's definitely an exciting time. And, obviously for you, I mean, I was working at Discord, your journey started in 2019, and Discord has obviously grown even more since then. Tell us a little bit about what it was like, starting working at Discord.
Yeah, it was a trip. It was my first job in this space, right,
Yeah.
in the tech industry, and I had no idea what to expect. I started off as an entry level position, one of our CX associate positions.
Okay.
And back then we had, I think, like 12 or 15 people on the team. The company had like 150 people total in the entire company. We're all in the office in San Francisco doing our thing. And it was just such like, I mean, it was like true like tech startup vibes, like
Yeah.
at least from what I understand. It's like everyone's just working super hard. There's new things popping up all the time. You have to wear so many different hats,
Yeah.
and like your role is sort of not ambiguous, but it's like it's not as well defined as like a major corporation role might be, right? It's just like we're all just trying to like make this thing work and like do what we can to help out the product and the user base and all that. So yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate because my boss is he is by far like the best boss I've ever had. And I'm sure a lot of people out there understand what it's like to not have a good boss.
Yes,
I've had quite a few myself. And so, he's been great because he's really pushed me throughout my entire career. And I think my timing was also it was really great timing because, back in 2019, it was a smaller company. And then I've always liked to say that I feel guilty saying this, but obviously COVID was kind of a boon to our company. You know what I mean? It's obviously a horrible situation in the world,
right.
but being in a communications company, like that was, perfect for us. But of course that presented a lot of challenges because the growth is so rapid. So, starting off as an associate and working my way up and getting promotions that take on new responsibilities, just being able to tackle this like rapidly changing landscape was wild, honestly. But the team I work for is honestly incredible. Like it sucks because I think support teams get kind of a bad rep in public scenarios, right?
Sure.
People just be like, oh, like they're taking forever, they don't care, like blah blah blah.
Right.
But I really encourage people to try and sort of get perspective from like behind the veil, right? Because I see it every day. I mean, I work with them, right? And it's like some of the most like passionate and hardworking people who like truly actually genuinely care about like people's problems that they're working on. Sometimes it's not just as simple, as providing just like, all right, I fixed it, you're done. It's not always that simple,
plug it
right?
back in again, like it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's a lot of complicated problems and complicated solutions. And so, but I think it's cool because we're all empowered to really pursue those kind of things, and really explore new avenues and try and learn a lot. And I think we're in a really, our leadership in our department has given us a really good, they given us the tools to do so. So I've been able to really take advantage of that and, start off as an associate, I hate saying it this way, but like quote unquote, the entry level, lowest level position in the department, worked my way up to a specialist, to a lead, to now a manager, all within my 3.5 or so years. So, it's being able to just work really hard and work alongside a lot of really just really talented people. Honestly, it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, I remember, first getting started, hearing about Discord and, just being kind of like, oh, this is cool. It's like a place that you can kind of like start to build your, your stream offline, and like in a place for everyone to hang out when you're not, necessarily, live or whatever, and starting that. And I think for me in the streaming space, that was like the first like note that I was doing something correct was I got partnered on Discord, and that was a huge moment for me in the streaming space, because I was like, okay, I'm doing something correct, like let's keep doing that, keep going there,
do more of that.
Yeah. But I mean, and then obviously to see what it's turned into is pretty incredible. Was there something that attracted you to Discord that you said, hey, this is a place that I want to work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think just to your point, it was ingrained in my life.
Yeah.
I was on Discord all day, every day. I actually got a chance to look at my own account and the history of all that. I've been on it since 2016, and it's it was interesting because once I got to a point when I was streaming full time, where I was like, all right, I'm at a point where I want to see if I can pursue some other careers. Kind of my, like what I mentioned before, my initial goal. And so I knew I wanted to be in the space. And at the time, Discord was obviously, Discord's core foundation is gaming, right? It's gaming in the gaming community. We've since obviously branched out into a lot more other communities, which has been really awesome. But I mean, at the heart of it, it's always been gaming. And so when I was applying, I was just constantly looking on their jobs page, and just saying like, all right, is there anything like entry level? I knew obviously with my experience and, streaming full time is not the most traditional resume builder. And so I wanted to see if I could showcase sort of the skills and knowledge that I have within this industry, within like a sort of a parallel, type career. And so I remember I was applying to Twitch and Discord, and I had interviews lined up for pretty much the same position, the associate position for their customer support teams. Went through the whole process, and finally got down to the offers. And for both Twitch and Discord, Discord again was much smaller at the time. Twitch was, we all know, huge. And ultimately I went with Discord because it felt, and this is, I want to be super clear, like no disparagement to Twitch at all.
Right.
I know a lot of people who work there and they're doing some great things and are super passionate. But I felt when I was going through the whole interview process at Discord, it felt very human. I really, the whole process is so in depth, and it's not just like, can you do the job? It's like, are you like a right person for this company's culture? You know what I mean? It's not just like if you have the technical skills or chops to do the thing. It's like, there's not a lot of turnover here. So it's like, we want to make sure that there's people here who genuinely like jive with each other. You know what I mean? And can like get along and be cordial with one another, and can contribute and build upon the culture here. So it just really felt like a really human experience. And I felt like they were genuinely interested in me and my growth as a person, and sort of what I can do and fit into this department of the company. And so it was honestly a pretty easy decision for me. I didn't look back. I had no regrets. And I kind of bet on the fact that it was a smaller company. I was like, hey, this is smaller and I could maybe be a part of something pretty big, that could eventually grow into something, as opposed to a company that's already very well established and huge and notable and all that. Right. So I feel like I made the right bet.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty happy with it.
That's huge. And we're big fans of Discord, and your founder, Jason Citron, is actually a Full Sail grad, which I feel like not a lot of people know, but it's a cool thing. We're huge fans and love what you guys are doing. So tell us, what is you said your title is customer experience manager. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's associate manager technically, but yeah.
what does that work look like? To talk about your typical day.
Yeah, so I have a team of direct reports that I work with, that I got a chance to hire, and a lot of it is just ensuring that they're prepared and that they're in a position to succeed in their roles, right? Not only with like sort of the needs of the department, right? Obviously, we have our queues that we're working within our support requests and all that,
Right.
but to ensure sort of like building out what their future might look like at the company. I'm a really big believer in removing roadblocks, right? Like I don't like being a manager that kind of like hovers over everything and is like, all right, tell me what you're doing today. Let's really micromanage this whole
Hmm.
thing. I hire with a lot of trust, right? Where it's like, I'm gonna bring you into the department. There's gonna be clear goals we have here, and you're gonna be able to do the work that you want to do. But ultimately, like you can always come to me if there's anything that's stopping you. And really trying to plan out what their future might look like to make sure that they're as successful as possible and growing in the ways they want to grow.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of my day to day, but also I work a lot with data as well. So trying to figure out like trends, mostly with obviously customer experience related issues, right? If we're seeing a lot of trends of a particular issue,
Right.
is this like a legitimate problem that we need to fix, or is it like maybe a communications issue? Is it a lack of documentation? What exactly is it? So being able to pull up a lot of data and work with a lot of other departments to that are in charge of whatever respective issue it might be, and say, hey, we
Yeah.
have X amount of users experiencing this issue. Here's the trends that we're seeing of like why it's an issue. Here's what I think we could do to fix it. What do you think? Right? And so it's cool because again, a lot of the teams are really passionate about making sure that the users feel like seen and heard, and that they want to like actually fix the problems,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not just like oh, we just want money and like whatever, those problems or whatever, we don't care. It's there's genuine like concern for people's
Yeah.
experience on the platform. And so our company has been really good about supporting the support teams,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not, I think historically speaking, you could probably look at customer experience, customer support, whatever, as sort of like the bottom of the
Hmm.
totem pole type deal at most companies. But Discord has a lot of trust in our department. And so whenever we've escalated issues, they usually are pretty good about, seeing us out and trying to fix it.
Yeah. And it seems like that's an ongoing theme. You talk about you being hired and going through that process and then really taking the time to get to know you as a person and what you're looking to build. And it seems that you do the same thing for your direct reports, right? That you've got their best intentions, is a huge part of that culture and everything that's going on at Discord, which is great. Cause who doesn't want to work for a company that has that,
Mhm.
that's a pretty huge deal. We got our first question here from chat, which is
Yeah.
how important is customer feedback when it comes to the growth of a product such as Discord?
It's a pretty easy, potentially cheesy answer, but huge.
Yeah.
I think it's tough because sometimes or oftentimes people may not see that their feedback is being heard, right? I think it's like sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm just like talking to a void. But there's so many products that we have in the app that are directly correlated to feedback that we've gotten from the
Yeah.
community. Um, I'm pretty sure the mobile gift picker was you
Yep.
used to not be able to like choose gifts on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that was a huge community request. There's just so many things, and it's tough because there's resources, right? And,
Right.
there's only so many resources a company can have, and so there's a lot of things that get discussed and brought up, like, oh, this has been a highly requested feature, but it's like we can maybe put it on the roadmap, but
Yeah.
we just can't do it right now, kind of thing,
Right.
right? So, no, I've always been a huge proponent of telling people to like put in, and it's not like just tweet at them and be like, hey, there's a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, oh, fix this crap
Yep.
Discord. Like, what the heck? You know what I mean? Like, there's a constructive way to do it, right? There's obviously the feedback page, and there's obviously there's like official Discord servers that you
Yep.
can join and stuff as well. So feedback's huge, but as someone who works internally, I can promise you it'll be much better received if you're cordial about it.
Yeah. Even that,
So,
or like and bringing ideas like, hey, I have this problem, or I see this problem. Here's I think a creative way that you could solve it, and like
mhm.
putting that constructive, criticism, if you will, for it, I think is it goes a lot longer than like, yo, it's broken, fix it.
Right.
I think that's probably helpful, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, no, we get it. We're trying to fix it. Like, please. So yeah, definitely.
So obviously, you talked about Discord, really booming, obviously during COVID, and over the last, 3 or 4 years, Discord has grown. Like it's huge. It's a common, oh, are you on Discord these days, right? So what's been your favorite part of working for the company during this time of kind of immense growth?
It's pretty wild because we talked about a little bit about how it's not just gaming anymore, right? How it's like there's other communities involved. There's sports communities, art communities, and there's like sneakerheads. I mean, literally anything you could think of that are on here. And so I wore my shirt for the show. I don't know if it's showing or not, but I don't wear my Discord merch very often. But sometimes I'll wear it out. And I've had moments where I'll be out wearing a Discord shirt, and I'll have like some younger person walk up and like, oh, do you work at Discord? Yeah. Like, oh, it's so cool. Like me and my buddies, we like share our art. We like do art projects together. Where they're like young kids who are basically didn't have a way to like showcase their art or really like collaborate with people and all that. So it's kind of cheesy, but it's like really cool to see just like the impact it can have, especially on like younger people's lives. I think it's so cool that there's avenues that people can have to cultivate communities and to showcase like their passions and their interests and to share that with other people, right? I think you can do it on like Reddit and stuff like that too, but in my opinion, and Reddit's great, but it doesn't quite have the same like communal feeling
Exactly.
that Discord does, right? It's not really built for that, at least in my opinion, but Discord is. So it's been cool to see that. But I've also, on the flip side of wearing my Discord shirt, I'll never forget this. I went to a pet store to pick up my cat's food, and this woman behind the register goes, "Oh, I didn't know boomers worked at Discord." And I was like,
oh, ouch.
yeah, we do. It's it's a thing.
You should,
So that's tough, but it's the reality we live in, I suppose.
I guess so. I guess so. Well, tell me this. Obviously, we've got a ton of students that are interested in moving into the gaming and esports kind of sector after graduation, or going to apply at Discord. What sort of advice would you give them as they embark out onto these industries?
Yeah, I think learning interview skills is a huge one. I think being able to be really concise in your responses, it's interesting now being as a hiring manager, you can tell when someone's very inexperienced in interviewing and they have a really hard time selling themselves, really, right? So they ramble a lot. They don't really know what they're talking about, or they don't know like how to say what they want to say. And so, especially when you're applying for entry level positions, it's like you don't have to be like an expert in your field. You just have to be able to like articulate and showcase certain skill sets that you have. So I think being able to really improve upon like your interviewing skills and like how to like speak in a professional setting is going to be really important. Because ultimately, if you are applying for junior positions, it's like there are sort of intangibles that you can showcase and make that are really attractive, right? It's like, are you like a sympathetic person? Do you see the big picture, right? Are you just super focused on what you're doing, or are you trying to consider other people involved, right? There's a lot that goes into it that may not be necessarily the skill, like the requirements of the role, right? It's like, oh, you need to know this tool, or you need to know this language, or whatever it is. But just like people skills and sort of like soft skills that I think would go a really long way. So being able to showcase those in a really effective manner during an interview can go a long way for sure.
Absolutely. And as we kind of wrap up here, I always ask our guests like one kind of like in the next 5 years type of a thing, where, from being a full-time streamer to working at Discord, where do you see the future of content creation in the next 5 years?
Oh man, it feels like every 6 months it changes.
It does.
It's such a fluid industry, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's wild. I mean, I think it's definitely, I look at the production value of certain streams.
Hmm.
I think a lot of us are so used, and even a little bit still to this day, there's a lot of us who just put the camera on and you play your game and that's it, right? And you're really good at it. But I look at I recently discovered Hassan and
Hmm.
like some of the podcasts that he does,
Yep.
or it's not even podcasts. It's like there's like a G4 show that I think he does where there's like a legit like studio, and they're they have like interactive sets and
Yeah.
scenes and things like that. Like it's like almost like legit TV at this point. So I think the content creation space, I think the quality of the production value is just going to be through the roof. I mean, I think there's going to be probably agencies out there that are like working with creators to really showcase their talents in a more, I guess I don't want to say professional level,
Right.
but maybe a little bit like
Maybe
that.
like
Yeah,
a
I mean, I
more
think
immersive level, right?
yeah, no, for sure. Like, I mean, I look at like the Doctor Disrespect stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's got like this like wild, like all these crazy scenes and
Yeah.
and graphic artists and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff doing all these unique things. Like, I think that's just going to get more and more built up for sure.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can find you, how to follow you on the social medias and all that jazz. Where can they find you?
Well, you're probably not going to see very much, as Bennett already recognized. I'm not super active on social media anymore, but I do have them. You can obviously just check out it. It's Vibronium across the board. Twitch, Twitter. I guess I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't really use it very much. I'm not very active, to be honest, y'all. So you don't look for too much there. But yeah, Vibronium just across the board on all socials.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey with us. Our next episode is going to be September 1st with our good friend Landon Lando Sanders, caster from the Call of Duty League and Full Sail grad. So we'll be excited for that. But Dustin, thank you again for being here, and we will catch you all next time.
Wow, thank you, Bennett. This was awesome. Appreciate you.